Hello and welcome to eGirl ASMR. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be doing some true crime ASMR. I originally got this idea because I often watch a lot of true crime to fall asleep, which is like weird. But I often wish that the creators would make versions that are like more soft spoken or something like that. I don't know, it just, for some reason, the intensity of the story just takes my mind off my own life. So, I just wanted to maybe do something if there's people like that out there who kind of find it relaxing to listen to these cases. But yeah, I also totally understand if you're not someone who likes the idea of mixing true crime and ASMR together, but I have tons and tons of relaxing videos that you can choose from. I recommend my facts playlist if you're into something a little bit more informative. Okay, so let's get into the video. I have my notes here because I don't want to mess anything up or spread any sort of misinformation. So today we are going to be covering the absolute tragic and heartbreaking case of Gabby Petito. This is something that's been very recent and it touched the hearts of many people because of how young and lighthearted and how much Gabby just seemed like such a regular girl. So a little bit about Gabby. She was born on March 19th, 1999, and she was always described by her friends as being very social, creative, talented, and adventurous, especially adventurous. And in July of 2021, she decided to take her desire for adventure and travel to a whole other level by quitting her job and buying a van so that she could travel across the country with her fiance, Brian Laundrie. Not only did she want to live out her dream, but she also wanted to share it on YouTube and Instagram, and she often used the hashtag vanlife to promote herself on social media. So the thing that is very sad about this case is the illusion that social media can cast on certain aspects. If you were to look at Gabby and look at her life and look at her posts, she looked like she had it all. She was traveling the world with her fiance by her side. She was taking very beautiful pictures with very beautiful captions, and she just, from the outside, it looked very good, but unfortunately this was very far from the truth. So Gabby met Brian in high school, but it wasn't until 2019 that they started dating. The people around the relationship described it to be rocky, and they would often get into fights, which would get them to break up and get back together, which, at that age is a little common. They were only 22. It was a high school sweetheart situation, so that part, that's a red flag, but I think that a lot of that happens at that age. In an interview, Gabby's parents actually said that they felt comfortable with her and Brian's hands despite these arguments, and they felt safe on this trip because they thought that Brian was going to take care of her. So they did not see the fighting and the breaking up to a level that it actually got to, which is really hindsight is 2020, right? So I'm sure that's very hard to look back at for the parents. Okay, so as they were on their trip on August 12th, 2021, 6 weeks into the couple's trip, a witness called 911 and an emergency response line claiming that the couple later identified as Brian and Gabby, were fighting in front of a community center in Utah. The callers told the dispatcher that they saw a man slap a woman after the two ran up and down the sidewalk, and the man hit the woman and then drove off. So apparently, I think that there were 2 witnesses that called in and said this, and then the police were able to identify the vehicle, and they found Brian and Gabby, and Brian seemed very content and fine, and Gabby was the complete opposite. So, like I was saying, the strange thing about this whole altercation is that Gabby, despite her being in hysterics, was trying to downplay the altercation between herself and Brian, while Brian was laughing, smiling, and being very smug with the police. He was really acting as if he did not care about his fiance's feelings at the time. If my partner was in hysterics the way that you can see Gabby is in the police body cam footage, I would not be acting the way that Brian did. In fact, I'm not the only one who thinks that. This entire interaction was so bizarre. Behavioral experts and criminal analysts state that this was a clear example of Brian using coercive control and abuse in order to manipulate the police into taking his side. And you can kind of see actually in body cam footage where they're saying, we don't know if we want to charge Gabby because, she's very upset. It seems like an emotional thing, but at the same time, we don't want Brian to be a battered man. So the combination of Gabby downplaying and the way that Brian was acting really manipulated the police into something that was not going on, and that's in no way Gabby's fault. The police should have definitely taken this more seriously, asked more questions, and consider that she could be downplaying something. A man saw another man hit a woman, and this was gone completely ignored. And experts actually say that this incident greenlit Brian and made him feel as though he was in the right in treating Gabby in such a horrible and abusive way. All the police ended up doing was order the two to separate. No charges were pressed, and there were to be no follow-ups after. Had the cops handled this situation differently, myself and many others believe that Gabby could still be with us today. And, you're watching this occur almost in slow motion. And, I think that this is where police forces could have more education on domestic abuse and how, women behave when they're trying to cover something up, because to me, it seemed very clear that she was trying to downplay the situation. So shortly after this event, on August 19th, Brian took a flight from Salt Lake City to Tampa, Florida, leaving Petito to herself, which is very strange to me. Petito stayed at a hotel in Salt Lake City, and according to staff, checked out on August 24th. It was later explained by the Laundrie family lawyer that Brandon made the trip to obtain some items and empty and close the storage unit to save money as they contemplated extending their trip. He returned on August 23rd to rejoin Gabby and continue their trip. Gabby's mother said that she last spoke to her daughter on August 25th, and that Gabby told her she was traveling to Utah for to visit Yellowstone National Park. On August 25th was the last post that Gabby Petito was to ever make on her Instagram page, and 2 days later, on the 27th, was the last time that Gabby was spotted in public. Shortly after this Instagram post, Gabby's very last sighting, according to a witness, was seen on August 27th. Between 1 and 2 p.m. they were at a restaurant together called Mary Piglet's, and the witness said that they saw the two having an argument, and that Brian was very aggressive with a waitress. And later, Gabby came back into the restaurant crying heavily and apologizing for Brian's behavior. And then later, restaurant staff confirmed via Instagram that the two were indeed at the restaurant. So, sometimes social media can work wonders in circumstances like this when you tag posts and stuff like that. But yeah, after this, lo and behold, Brian on September 1st, 2021, came back to Florida by himself, and in the white van in which he and Petito were traveling in. And then, oddly enough, on September 6th and 7th, Brian and his family went camping together, which I find extremely strange because aren't they wondering where Gabby is? Wouldn't they be like, hey, son, where is your fiance that you just want on a trip with the entire summer? So, to me, this is very strange, and this is where the parents come in, and I strongly believe that they know something, or that they are covering something up. During this time, Gabby's parents knew that Gabby was not with Brian, and they contacted Brian's parents, and they remained silent. Like, I don't understand how people can remain silent in situations like this. I don't think it should matter. If it's your son, you should not be protecting people if something this serious is going on. So after not hearing from Gabby for a very long time, since August, Gabby's parents reported her as a missing person on September 11th, 2021. On September 15th, shortly after, Brian was then named a person of interest, and his parents hired a lawyer, and based on his advice, they continued to remain silent, refusing to talk to anybody about the case. A lot of people, I watched some interviews where, his lawyer was like, this is my advice, I told the family to do this, don't put the blame on them. But I still do, because the Laundrie family still made that conscious, active decision to remain silent when their son's fiance's parents were in complete distress. And yes, that was an option to remain silent, but they did not have to do that. On September 17th, Brian was then reported as a missing person by his parents, as they had not seen him since September 13th. I don't know how Brian's parents could have even let him leave the house. I feel like if my son was a person of interest, I would be watching him like a hawk. He would not be able to leave. he would have to be there in case, he needs to cooperate with police and be part of this investigation. But again, to me, it's like these parents, man, they're really something with the hiding and the silence at the most inconvenient times. And I just feel like they're not taking proper accountability for their own or their son's behavior at all. So 2 days later, on September 19th, human remains matching the description of Petito were found at the Spread Creek dispersed camping area in a national forest, and it was not far from where the van was previously observed. So obviously she was not far from the place that she was living in through this vacation. Her identity was confirmed through an autopsy, which determined that her manner of death was homicide by strangulation, which occurred 3 or 4 weeks before the body was found. And at this point, Brian was still a man on the run. No one knew. There are a lot of people who had insights on, how long he could last out there, whether he was still alive. I think even Dog the Bounty Hunter commented on this and did not believe that he was alive. But there are a lot of theories about what were going on, a lot of conspiracy theories on TikTok about him living in his parents' garden, lots and lots of different things. On September 23rd, the United States District Court of the District of Wyoming issued a warrant for Brian Laundrie's arrest. He used someone else's debit card to obtain $1,000 while he was on the run, which is very suspicious. And so at that point, a body is found and he's on the run and he has taken money out from someone else's debit card. It's just, the walls here are closing in on Brian. On October 5th, an interview with ABC News with Brian's sister encouraged him to turn himself into authorities. So maybe his sister was not part of this bizarre plan, but, I just don't know what to say. And then Brian's parents came and looked for him, joined the search with a team of people to try and locate their son, who, was looking more and more guilty by the day. Finally, on October 20th, Laundrie's skeletal remains were confirmed and found. And some of his belongings were found in a park that were recently underwater due to a flooding. His cause of death could not be determined by an autopsy, but his remains were given to an anthropologist for further examination. It was announced that Laundrie died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound, and the matter of death was suicide. So these are my final thoughts on the case, and obviously Gabby and her family and the rest of the world have been heartbroken by what has happened throughout the case. People are grieving at the death of Gabby while also protesting at the house of Brian's parents, demanding answers. The parents continue to remain silent on per the advice of their lawyer, but I keep saying this again, I don't know how they can morally do this. There are 2 young people who are dead, and I think that they are the closest that Gabby's parents, the communities, are ever gonna get to the truth. I just wanted to mention before I end this video that I have linked the Gabby Petito Fund in the description below. I think that I wouldn't do a case where I don't feel like there's anything I can do to help, so I have linked the Gabby Petito Fund below. They have a lot of resources for people who may be in a similar situation, and they are also let me just read their mission statement for you so I don't get anything wrong. So the mission statement is to fund and address the needs of organizations to support locating missing persons and to provide aid to organizations that assist victims of domestic violence situations through education, awareness, and prevention strategies. So I've put the link down below. There are scholarships, there are resources. I'm sure you can donate if you reach out. So if this case touched your heart, please consider donating to the Gabby Petito Fund. Everything again is down in the description. That's all for today. I hope you found this video informative and relaxing. I hope to do other cases in the future. Today I did more of a soft-spoken, and maybe I'll do a whispering one in the future. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And if you want to see more cases, don't be afraid to suggest some down below. This is something that I would actually like to make into a series, because I just love true crime and watching behavior and looking at research and everything. So I'm really glad that you made it through, if you made it through this far. Thank you so much. See you in the next one. Good night.